So welcome back. So bit of a strange one. So what we're going to talk about is TBC. Mainly because I've been playing on the Endless server. I've been playing a mage and a druid on Endless. If you don't know what it is, check it out. Not a plug, but endless.gg, or jump on their Discord, which is the same, endless.gg on Discord, but discord.endless.gg, and see what it's about. But ultimately, an Endless TBC private server. It's fantastic. So 5 times XP. It's really good. But have a look. It's made me realise how much I love TBC compared to Classic. I'm still playing Classic, still love Classic, obviously, but TBC brings so much more. So I just want to take sort of 10-15 minutes talking about what you can look forward to in TBC as a Druid, which there's a lot. So we're going to go over that. We're also going to look at sort of the major differences between what you can do now in raids and what you will be able to do in raids in TBC. So fingers crossed, let's hope we get a TBC announcement from Blizzard, because we all want TBC as a Druid. But obviously, before we get into that, make sure you like, subscribe, check out the giveaway, and keep coming back. I'll keep putting content out like this. Enjoy. I'll see you soon.
So we're going to be talking about TBC, but I mean, you can't talk about TBC really without thinking about Karazhan, and not even just. I mean, there was lots of good raids, but Karazhan, especially things like the chess event, the Opera House. I mean, the chess event really sticks out more for me than probably any of the other encounters, purely because it was so original. You know, who's going to be the king? Let's argue about that. Obviously, TBC brought other great raids, ones that you never forget, on making specs playable, or not even playable, but viable, like a protection paladin. That's just one example. But there's boomkins and lots of other things. The raids probably stand out more for me than anything, as well as the beautiful zones, which you'll see in the background, just flyovers of various zones. They also then started bringing more creative dungeons, and heroic counterparts of their dungeons as well as daily zones. I mean, that was something fairly new, having daily zones. But like the likes of Orkenden, the Serpent Shrine sort of dungeon hub, and sort of the Shattered Halls, that general area in Hellfire Peninsula, it was all quite revolutionary. But we're going to talk about none of that, and instead we're going to talk about what you can look forward to as a Feral Druid in TBC if we get an announcement, which I'm hoping we will at some point. My prediction would be by Phase 5. I reckon by Phase 5 we will have an announcement of what's going to happen after Phase 6. Personally, there's not that many routes I wouldn't say that they could go down, and I think TBC probably will be the route that we go down. But why should you start thinking about it now, and why should you be excited? Obviously, I'm a Feral Druid. And Druid. I'd say Druid in general. I'll play any spec, whatever If Boomkin was better than Feral, I'd play Boomkin. I love Feral. Don't get me wrong, but obviously I still want to play the most competitive spec. At the moment, that is Feral, and I believe that throughout the whole of TBC, should we get the announcement, Feral will still remain the competitive DPS spec. So why start worrying about it now? Why get excited? So some of the things I think you've got to look forward to. Just a few quick points. Not going to go into mass detail about any of them, but just the ones that really stand out for me. So rotation. So it's still not overly interesting, but it's still going to be a pleasant change from classic. So at the moment where it's just shred, shapeshift, shapeshift, ferocious bite. There's not really that much like tracking needed or anything like that. I've always enjoyed playing a Feral Druid because of its complexity, and you have to work twice as hard as a rogue or a warrior, to do equal damage, which I like the challenge. But the rotation's going to change quite drastically, really, in if we get TBC. So because you're looking now at you can use bleeds because of the debuff, the boss debuff limit removed. So now you can start keeping rake up, keeping rip up. So you've now got two things to watch for all the time: keeping the mangle debuff up, managing your energy, to make sure that it's not, rip's not going to fall off, or you've got enough points to put rip back up when you've got mangle on, all those sort of things. And it also, again, feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but then you're looking at snapshotting as well, which I believe started more or less in TBC. I mean, it probably happens a little bit in Classic, but definitely not to the extent that it did in TBC, where you're now waiting for trinket procs, or you're waiting for just procs in general to get your rip up, and then you're wanting to refresh your rip, with like 1 second left on these certain buffs, so you get maximum duration, of a buffed rip. And then again, you're still going to be weaving ferocious bites in. You might only do a few ferocious bites, whereas now it's your most used finisher in TBC. It'll all be about bleeds, keeping your bleeds rolling all the time, and keeping mangle up on the boss, keeping fairy fire up on the boss. You will still power shift, so people think that's going to disappear with TBC. It absolutely won't. And I'll be honest with you, even the level 40 Wolf's Head Helm that we use now, I reckon you'll probably use that up to about tier 5 comfortably. So I don't want to go too much into gear, because I'm going to speak about that in a minute. Actually, I'll go onto it now. So yeah, the rotation is going to be different. It's going to be interesting. And then tier sets. We now get actual feral tier sets. I mean, that's beautiful. The set bonuses are a bit lackluster, but I'll be honest with you, the 2-piece from the tier 4, which I'll put on now, is amazing. I reckon you'll probably be using 2 set tier 4, possibly till the end of TBC, but definitely until tier 6. Definitely until you've got your 4-piece tier 6, because it's just so nice. If you're mixing it in with power shifting, so if you're using Wolf's Head Helm, then I'll be honest with you, its value starts to diminish probably quite significantly. But if you're not power shifting, and that's probably the good thing to look forward to in TBC. I don't foresee, or don't remember, power shifting being massively required as it is now in Classic. Obviously in Classic you absolutely have to power shift if you want to do competitive damage, whereas in TBC you will, if you're power shifting, you'll do more damage than a Druid who's not, maybe 90% of the time. But also, you get in the meta gem slot, the 3% crit, and the agility meta head slot, and maybe a tier 4 helm, whatever you're going to be using. It closes the gap a lot. Tier 5, not great. I'll put tier 5 on screen. Set bonus on tier 5, pretty pants to be honest with you. But a tier 6 set bonuses, I mean the 4 set especially, just the flat damage increase on rip. And Ferocious Bite, which are the main 2 to be fair, is just incredible. The reason I'm not really a fan of tier 5 is the fact that if you look, let me just put it on now because I'm going to find it myself. Hang on. Yeah, it's the 4 set for me. So the 4 set, your shred ability deals an additional 75 damage. That is nice. Don't get me wrong, it's nice, but it's still quite lackluster, because when you look at the idol of Everbloom, that I'll also put on now, I mean, that's just an idol. Just an idol, and it does more than your 4 set tier bonus. And I know now you're probably thinking, well, you'll stack them both and it's lovely. Yeah, it is lovely, but still, when you can get a better a better tier set, 4 tier set bonus from an idol than you can on a set bonus, it's not great, is it? So, the 5-piece for me, and even the healing touch spell takes 2 fewer seconds less to cast. All right, lovely. Might be useful to wear 2 pieces in PvP, but in a PvE scenario, I can't imagine where this sort of actually matters. It's not as if we've got Blood Talons or, Predatory Swiftness where you're doing the instant heal and getting bonus damage like in later expansions. So it's not really, a bit disappointing really. But as I say, tier 4 2 set is amazing. And the 2 and 4 set on tier 6 are amazing. But you still may choose to, mix your 4 set tier 6 in and keeping a level 40 head Wolf's Head Helm, because it just is that good. But that's, you know, running sims and stuff like that for your specific gear setup and everything. That's something that we'll have to look at closer to the time. But anyway, I don't want to drag on too long on each of these topics because I want to keep this video quite quick. So talent changes. So obviously the extra talents we get, as well as the key sort of changes in talents and what they do. So yeah, I mean, for me, when we look through these talents now, you know, the new ones, it's mostly the same. First two tiers, you're still going to be taking sort of ferocious bite, damage, which you're not going to be using as many ferocious bites, but there is no damage increase on the next tier, so you're still going to take, you know, the first 10 points are going to be in the first tier. So we're going to take those, then we're going to sharpen claw, which you're getting your 6% crit. Feral charge, obviously you're going to take that. The feral swiftness, which is the movement speed. Predatory strike. So primal fury has changed, so now it's only 2 points rather than 4. So you get your bear bonus and cat bonus, so you can potentially tank and DPS with the same spec without needing those points. You've got your damage bonus, then you've got your shred, obviously, which you're going to have to take, but also affects lacerate as well for tanking. So they've crossed a lot of these talents across. So whereas before it was a cat talent or a bear talent, now it's a cat and bear talent. So you can just more or less go one spec, be able to tank perfectly, be able to DPS perfectly, which is a welcome change. And then even Heart of the Wild's changed as well now, so you've got the 10% bonus attack power instead of the strength bonus, which makes weapons more valuable. So where you get that feral attack power bonus on weapons, you're getting 10% of that. And because the feral attack power bonus is so big, it's such a massive gain compared to that 20% extra strength that, you know, manual crowd pummeler will become a thing of the past, because it's just the attack power bonus is going to outweigh massively that attack speed bonus for the 30 seconds. I could be proven wrong on this, and don't get me wrong, even in TBC I'm well prepared to farm manual crowd pummelers if needs be, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Predatory, so predatory insects down the bottom, obviously you're going to take that. Less, avoiding area AoE attacks, which is always nice, and just the flat out crit damage bonus, bonus from crits. And then they changed the balance. We used to go into balance to get Omen of Clarity. Now it's in Resto. None of this has changed, so you're still going to get the 10% physical attack damage, but rather than you getting it in the balance tree, you get it in the Resto tree, and it's all in one. As I say, the talents are there's not really a lot you'll do differently. More or less every feral DPS, specifically DPS Druid, will be the same. As a tank, like I say, you can do a one spec fits all quite comfortably, and if we get a TBC announcement, obviously I'll be doing a lot of videos on specs and gearing and all that stuff, but I wanted to just sort of keep this video about what the things that you've got to look forward to. So talents, that just gives you a quick taster of it anyway. And then, some of the other really, really good ones for me, obviously flight form. I know there's a lot of people who are not fans of flying in WoW, but tough, that's what happened. It only took one expansion before it was flying, and having flight form is amazing, especially if you're herbing and stuff. You can just drop down herb without coming out of flight form. An amazing reason to play a druid, to be fair, and a lot of people will do a druid alt as a gatherer in TBC as well, purely because of that. Not specifically druid related, but gems just spice gear up a little bit. You get the dual crafting profession, which also it gives you another option. Dual crafting's always was a great way of making gold. You can make some trinkets as well fairly early on, which they would be replaced, but still, if you want a half decent trinket straight away, dual crafting was a good way to go. And then just briefly touching on sort of raids and dungeons, the dungeons were so much better than Classic. The raids were so much better. I mean, Karazhan, I know I've already mentioned, but Karazhan's amazing. That'll be something I really look forward to if we get a TBC announcement. But, Serpentine Cavern, Tempest Keep, bloody Gruul's Lair, Magferoden, all those things were really fun. And obviously, especially with the changes to raid size. Me personally, I'm not really that much of a fan of 40-man raiding. I like 25. I think 25 man's quite comfortable. But I love 10-man raiding because you've got that group of 10 of you that you want to play together. If you like the larger scale sort of raids, 25 I think was a comfortable number to have a more, rather than having a guild of 60, 70 people for a 40-man raid where a majority of people are just numbers, and then you've got that small clique of say 20, 30 people that all know each other. That change of raid size, for me, really sort of done that. 25 is a good amount to know each other, to enjoy raiding with each other, to have that personal sort of interaction with people, rather than it being just a guild of numbers just to be able to raid, which I feel that is a little bit of a downer in Classic. As social as you want to be in your guild, I think knowing everybody when it's such large raid numbers, it's only the loud people that are going to have a voice. So yeah, I think the change in raid size will be something to look forward to as well. And then from a Druid perspective, the big differences in what you can do in TBC and what you can't do in Classic. I mean, Boomkin and Feral DPS to a certain extent. At the moment, I say that Feral DPS is viable, and it absolutely is viable. But you could still take another class that will do more damage. And same with Boomkin. Boomkin are fairly low down, but a great Boomkin with amazing gear, I don't doubt, can put out some good numbers on a quick fight before they go boom. But all of that's solved in TBC. So a Boomkin gets natural, mana regen from talents, for example. The cost of the spells that they do are reduced. And Feral DPS, you can now use your bleeds. You get so much attack power from weapons. You've got idols. You've got tier set bonuses made for you. You've got all these things that just make it a viable spec. And it's not just Druids. Paladins got the same. So rep Paladins. I mean, protection Paladins. I'm sure we had 2 protection Paladins tanking Karazhan when I used to play in TBC. So like all these specs that at the moment are meme specs or just not overly viable, they all open up in TBC, which is an exciting time for Druids, because you've got 4 potential roles that you can fill: range, melee, tank, healer, and all of them are going to be viable. And healers, Resto Druids in TBC were just god mode in Arena. Everybody wanted a Resto Druid in their team because of Life Bloom, and they really excelled during TBC. So yeah, I think it's exciting times. As I say, I've tried to keep this fairly short. I hope it has sort of been a nice bite-sized chunk of why you should be excited as a Druid for TBC. Let me know in the comments why you're excited for TBC, and I will see you on the next video, which the next video is actually going to be a very strange one, and it's going to be about guilds in Classic and do you need them. So yeah, make sure you come back for that, and I'll see you soon.